everyone. I, Rahul Sharma, takes great honor to welcome you all at today's session on how emerging technology will improve the offering of startups and will help in their growth. Let me introduce our honored guest for today's session. We have Mr. Sunil Kumar, Chief Executive Officer, Center for Advancing and Launching Enterprises, which is based at Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. We have another speaker for today's session, Mr. Suman Parimal. So I would like to introduce for Suman sir. Mr. Suman Parimal is an MBA in General Management from XLRI Jamshedpur and holds engineering degree electrical and electronics engineering from University of Mysore, India. He also attended MTech MS in electrical engineering at NIT Bhopal. Suman is a senior industry professional, market analyst, thought leader, consultant, and entrepreneur with 25 plus years of global work experience in business management, research, consulting, project execution, and operation in reputed firms. Mr. Suman has worked across the globe in markets like North America, Africa, Europe, Asia Pacific, including India, where he drove many large, innovative, and unique projects in business, techno-economic, and management areas in BFSI, infrastructure, smart cities, energy utility, wastewater, manufacturing, retails, supply chain to high-tech sectors. Mr. Suman consulted many global reputed Fortune companies across the world and managed a global team of professionals spread across various countries. His consulting areas includes market research and market analysis of emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, artificial intelligence, NLP, RPA, ML, robotics, applied analytics, etc. Mr. Suman consults CEOs and CXOs of business performance improvement, market disruptions, market prediction, go-to-market business model innovation, and digital transformation and tech innovation, and host engage with tech market analyst meetup group for entrepreneurs and professionals throughout the world. We welcome you, sir, and now I would request Mr. Sunil Kumar, Chief Operating Officer, Center for Advancing and Launching Enterprises, to set the context for today's session. Mr. Sunil Kumar, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Rahul. So, good afternoon, Mr. Parmal and all the participants.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I take this opportunity to thank you for accepting our request to deliver your view through this webinar. On behalf of Cradle and the startup ecosystem, I really appreciate for your valuable time for this webinar, and I'm sure this will be beneficial for all the participants. Most of participants here are from a startup ecosystem and founders who are working on innovative technologies. As we all know, we are the youngest country of the world, where 63% of our population are below 35 years. And we all are living in a global village. So as far as opportunities are concerned for these startups, that is huge, that is immense, because they can serve with their product, their services to all across the globe. Our government is having great focus on a startup ecosystem that we all know, and the result is with us. Within the span of 4.5 years, when the startup ecosystem has got focus from the government, more than 50,000 startups have enrolled. And out of this 50,000 startups, 45% are at idea and idea validation stage. 12% are in a scaling stage. Today, we are proud to share that India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We have more than 38 unicorn. And I will say that year 2020 was great for a startup ecosystem, where in year 2020 only we have added 12 unicorn. So gentlemen, what I'm trying to say here, that this is the right time. This is the focus is on a startup ecosystem. The technologies are emerging. So for young generation and for new businesses, this is the right time. But again, the hard fact is also with us. The hard fact is that 90% startup fails, only 10% succeeds. I don't want to demotivate you, but we have to understand the hard fact and we have to understand the reason behind that. So the fact is that 90% startup fails. The fact is even 75% venture capitalist backed startup also fails. So this is not that you got money and after that you will succeed. The story is not like that. But again, if we analyze the reasons of failures, you will find that 56% startup fails due to lack of product market fit and marketing problem. So again, this has given us an opportunity to think that if our product is not market fit, then failure or success rate will totally depend on that. So the myth that if you are not having money or due to financial problem, a startup fails, that is not correct. Because only 16% of startup fails due to financial problem or financial issue. So the myth that a startup fails due to financial issue, that is not correct at all. So the issue is, the basic issue is that your product is not market fit. And if the product is not market fit, that I will say the technology plays very, very important role. And that is the reason this session is very, very important. And who will be the better person than Mr. Sumant Parimal, who is having global network, who has expertise in these emerging technology and serving CXO at global platform. So we are really, really happy to welcome you here, and I'm sure that all our participants will get great insight. This webinar will help them in relook their offering, to rethink their product offering, services offering, and help them to include the technology in their offering, which will help in creating the differentiation at marketplace, and which will help them to develop their product market fit and will increase their success ratio. I'm sure this webinar will help all the startups in improving their offering and will help in their growth. So thank you, and over to you, Mr. Parimal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunilji, for such a wonderful note, and thank you to Rahul, another member of your team who actually organized this webinar. And I really apologize for a couple of minute delay because my system went to mute. And I was also looking forward for this session. In fact, if you see the transition point, when I transitioned from my employer SCL Technology to my own venture here at 5Jewel Research at Inauguris, the main objective was this only, what you have mentioned, Mr. Sunil, that the failure rate of the startups is very high. And I bring the analyst insights to particularly to the tech markets and tech entrepreneurs, because I personally felt that that's the area where tech startups are underexposed. They are not exposed to the good analysts. You know, the Gartner and IDC kind of world are typically limited to our top 100 tech firms, or you can say big tech, or maybe to the maximum. The SMEs are their customers, but they don't have any portfolio for the startups. And market intelligence has a great role in evolving the fit products and services for the market, the various markets. Even you need to analyze how a particular market will take a turn in next couple of years, because whatever product and services as a startup you're launching is not for only this year, but it will go for sales up to 4 to 5 years, maybe up to 10 years also. So in fact, the idea behind launching the 5Jewel Research was to enable the startups to succeed. And my vision and my ambition for this startup, my own startup, is to at least succeed, at least to improve even 2%, 3% success rate in a startup ecosystem. That will be also a great add-on, you know, because just say 95% of the startup get failed. So even 3%, 4% improvement means a lot of more unicorns will be added to the systems, or sustainable startups added to the system. In my structure presentation, I have one slide on the region, various regions. You have already discussed some of the regions, why these startup fails. So while I think most of the participants here from the startup background, they might have done their own market research, their own analysis, they might have their own experience, their own prototype and pilot type to get the market validation done. But market is a very dynamic entity. It changes. You know, what you analyze 2 years back or 3 years back may not be relevant, particularly in the pandemic-driven world. It's moving at a higher speed. But what we will do, I will go through a structured presentation where I will bring out my thoughts, and you can come in and ask your question. You have any doubt over there with related to your startups or with related to your experience or your customer problems. So in that way, we can give a direction to this webinar. So, I mean, though we can have a structured Q&A section at the end of my presentation, which I am trying to wind up in next 30 to 40 minutes, something like that. But you can have a question anywhere in between. So my presentations are visible to you people? Okay, so thanks again for this wonderful opportunity in talking to startups. That's what, you know, if you see my meetup groups, I run the meetup groups across the world in Silicon Valley, in New York, in Boston, and Glasgow, in London, in India, in Bangalore, in New Delhi. So a lot of the startups do come and actually listen to my thoughts. And so some of the thoughts here I picked up from those sessions also, which I earlier took for the startups, and some of the fresh thoughts are there. Before I'll go in the nitty-gritty of the technology, let me talk about what this disruption word is, right? So many of you must have actually experienced the disruption, or must have thought the disruption as a kind of founding block of your startup. But I coined a term that 360-degree continual disruption. So even if you are convinced, can you conceptualize your products or services or your startups a couple of years back based on some that time disruption prospects? But what will actually make you succeed is 360-degree continual disruption, because this disruption cycle is also evolving, you know, as per the market dynamics. So your disruption aspects, your disruption model need to be also evolving. If you see, new business growth mantra is follow 360-degree continual disruption to unlock infinite ended potential of open market economy. A disruption need to have 360-degree view. It need to be multi-directional, multi-dimensional, multi-layered, multilateral, and it need to be continual. 360-degree continual disruption mantra can keep market saturations and growth strategy at bay. I believe that when someone say that market is recessionary, that means that they compromise and ended with their creativity and disruptive, innovative ideas. So nowadays, you know, a lot of people complain that there is a lot of recession in market, there are downtowns in market due to pandemic. So they're talking about the past. They have not catch up the future. So for the future, visions missing. You know, I mean, you can't build up your startup in pandemic world based on what you have thought 3-4 years down the line. Of course, that may be a guiding block, but you need to analyze the market and the prospects in new way. You have to analyze the situation, you know, every month or say after the quarter, that how we are moving. So I don't generally believe when someone say there is no demand in market, that means there is really no demand. Of course, the demand is not there for that kind of product or that kind of offering or for that kind of market, you know, so pricing or that kind of business model. But you need to re-innovate your new business model. You need to disrupt the status quo again. So I believe there is always a market, there is always a demand, there is always a customer. Only thing is statistics remain shifting and statistics remain changing. So those who succeed in proactively decoding these shifts in market forces and characteristics are true disruptors. The true disruptors catches these characteristics at very early stage. They read the marking in the sky, and they become trendsetters and lead the disruptive way. So I think you will agree that only way to kind of defeat the present trends is to continually disrupt. You need to self-disrupt also. Whatever you have established, you have to break your own models, the previous ecosystem. You need to recreate new models. So this is the I'm kind of bit highlighting one disruptive innovation model which was proposed by Clayton as a leading thought leader in the disruptive innovation. So he said that when your startup matures, you start targeting the premium clients, the clients who pay you more, or the premium product offering. Then you start forgetting about the lower end of the market, or say from where you started, because typically the product and services companies are naturally bound to follow the high-paying segment of the market. So what's happened that in the lower end of the market, the empty space starts creating. So there comes the disruptive innovation. A new startup has to come on with the new products and services to fulfill these neglected area, or the markets which have not been served by the existing players, or some big tech players or big players. They are not giving enough attention to those market segments, or a new market segment has been discovered which the existing players are not attentive about, or they are not serving it, or they are not serving it well. There are a lot of inefficiency in that market. So that becomes pivoting point for the startups. So this is how the whole disruptive model works. So when you design your production services, to find out where you are fitting into this trajectory, whether you are a new entrant or you are an entrant, where you are displacing or substituting the existing players at the bottom of the pyramid. So many of you may have to start with the low-end market, and then you have to grow to the high-end market. Or many will have blue ocean strategy, where you are the first inventor of the market. No one else is there in market. So you will have the blue ocean strategy. You have the competitive advantage. You are the unchallenged player until for say 1 year, 2 years, or something like that, because your business models are discoverable. It will be discovered by others. It will be certain, it will be certainly copied by others if you are making a good profit, if you're making a growth, if you are making a revenue. So it's like your business model also need to be protected, and protected by what? Protected by IP, of course, I agree with that, but it need to be also protected by re-innovation, or say self-disruption. You need to self-disrupt yourself to keep your business going on. So I think I've spoken with the disruption, so much of disruption. I want you to show you a video about recent CNBC Disruptor 50 list. So I have picked up here in this video, I picked up 5 top disruptors which have been ranked by CNBC TV. So I have a small video here. So these are the 5 lists. The Robinhood, the company names, startup names are Robinhood, Stripe, Discord, Sentinel-1, and DD Chunk. So in this video, you'll see how they have structured themselves in terms of their offerings and their business model. So why they are figuring in the top 5 of the top 50 disruptor list. So CNBC, every year they come up with this top 50 list. They evaluate more than 1,000, 10,000 startups. After evaluating with the strict parameters, they come up with this list. So it is sometimes good to study what other startups at the global level they are doing. So let me start this small video.
Number 5, Didi Chuxing, the Chinese ride-hailing giant, reportedly driving towards a $100 billion U.S. IPO. More than just the Uber of China, Didi offers dozens of transportation and delivery services to more than 550 million users around the world. Number 4, SentinelOne, on a mission to protect the internet from rising cybercrime.
AI deals with data at scales, and that's really where we feel AI should be leveraged the most.
The company says it defended more than 4,000 customers from last year's SolarWinds hack, including corporate giants AT&T, McKesson, and JetBlue. Number 3, Discord. Popular among video gamers, the platform captivated users through live social audio. The app has increasingly attracted sports fans, music groups, and crypto traders, not to mention Microsoft, which explored a $10 billion acquisition earlier this year. Number 2, Stripe, the financial plumbing for most e-commerce, powering platforms from Amazon to Shopify to Uber. It's seen eye-popping growth throughout the pandemic, becoming the nation's biggest private company with a reported valuation of $95 billion. And number 1, Robinhood, on a mission to democratize access to financial services and the stock market. The no-fee trading platform has made its mark on Wall Street and is empowering a new generation of investors. Robinhood trading was at the center of record market volatility in names such as GameStop and AMC in January, drawing lawsuits from users and questions from Congress.
Prices will move dramatically day to day, even hour to hour.
Still, venture capital investors put in another $3 billion to keep Robinhood in business. Now it's heading towards a highly anticipated IPO. Now, fintech is the industry with the most companies on this year's list, 11, including Robinhood. There are 34 disruptors this year that are unicorns, and 10 of the 50, including Robinhood, are worth at least $10 billion. Now, nearly half of the companies on this year's list are first-timers, including 3 of the fintechs, Plaid, which had its sale to Visa, blocked by the government, Brex, and Flutterwave, both of which help small businesses. And Andrew, we've also got Discord and Clubhouse on the list for the first time.
So I think you have seen about those top 5 disruptors among the. I think what I've done, to give a feeling how the emerging tech, or rather the tech startups, are making difference in this entire ecosystem. What I've done, I've classified, or I've broken down the entire 50 startups, these startups, which have been figured by top 50 disruptors by CNBC TV, into 3 categories. So first category is pure tech. Okay, so the top eight, or you can say this top 5, all are falling into some kind of tech startups. Pure tech, the tech-enabled. So pure tech is like the technology startups. I mean the core technology. They have the offering also of technology. And the tech-enabled means like fintech. They are tech company, but they are actually enabling some business functions. So this is another classification. And the non-tech. The non-tech is like brick and mortar, which are, of course, they are having a good websites and some technology tool, but they are not actually delivering anything through technology, right? But they are not using that much of technology. They are not technology intensive. So if you put up these all top 50 companies, the top 50 disruptor of CNBC into the category, and I've taken the samples, because the list is long. So I've randomly picked up the 8 company sample of the first category, that is pure tech category. Now we have seen what kind of return. Return means average valuation gain in percentage for per invested dollar per year they have fetched to the stakeholders. So these stakeholders are, of course, the founders, the entrepreneurs, promoters, the investors, the employees, the customers. So if you analyze this data, so what is the message you are seeing here? the more technology intensive businesses, products and services offering you have, the highest return it gives. It may not be true for everyone, as Mr. Sunil has mentioned, that many technology firm also fails. So even in this 8 firm list, you will see there are firms like Robinhood, though it has been declared as topmost disruptor by CNBC, but it has only returned a value of 20% per annum, year-to-year value. When I say value, it's valuation growth. Per dollar of investment, year on year, it returned only 20%, but still they have ranked as topmost disruptor. Because they have the different parameters on which they rank. Here I'm only concluding from the one parameter, the gain, the return, the valuation. Because as a promoter, as a startup, I'm also most interested about valuation of my startup, my venture firm. So if I am investing $100 today, after 2 years, how much growth I will be, not only in terms of revenue, but in terms of valuation. So valuation is also dependent on revenue. So I'm not limiting my discussion on revenue only, because revenue is a driver for valuation. But there are other factors which also matters. So suppose if I'm planning my startup journey, then my products and solutions should not only conceptualize based on revenue expectations, but I should have also a long-term valuation vision, long-term gain vision, long-term exit vision. How and when I will exit? What should my gain after exiting? Because you as a founder may have passion to drive your startup, but your partner, particularly investing partners, will have passion to add growth in their investment, which comes from the valuation, right? So in this category, if you see, the average valuation gain per year is 107%. It's fantastic gain in valuation. And if I come to the next slide, the first is some of the samples of tech-enabled companies. Tech companies, those who are using technology in their products and services and business model to deliver value to the customers. Like Uber or Ola, they are the tech-enabled company. Though they are widely known as technology company, but I'm calling them from a different terminology, tech-enabled company, right? The technology companies are IBM, the Oracle kind of world. These are the pure technology companies. So if you see, I have picked up 8 samples here also in this category, like K-Health, DD, like Nikita, the Udacity, the Side Diagnostic. I picked up 8 samples and analyzed here. So these companies have given also excellent return. In year to year, their valuation has seen over 80% growth. So that's a very fair enough growth. And when I come to non-tech companies, though 90% of those top 50 CNBC top 50 companies are tech companies, so we are left with only 5 companies to study in non-tech category. So they have fetched only 36% of return. I mean, the valuation gain, I mean to say, not return, sorry, valuation gain. So it's a clear demarcation. The more technology intensive you will become, they are likely to fetch better valuation. Of course, the failure happens with the technology company. I'm not saying all technology company will fetch this kind of handsome valuation. But if you study the most successful company, they have actually in the tech domain, they have actually fetched higher valuation or higher stakeholder gains compared to non-tech company. So this point I was trying to prove, even if you are doing something in healthcare, even if you are doing something in FMCG space, try to build your business model, your products and services across the technology, particularly emerging technology, which I'm going to discuss in detail in my presentation today. But this is the substantiation of the fact that why more and more companies are becoming tech intensive today. Even the ride sharing, the taxi companies are now dependent on technology. Now pizza delivery companies also dependent on technology, because the technology is driving the valuation. Technology is driving the customer experience. Technology is driving the transaction, the ease of doing business transaction. Technology is driving the sales enablement. Technology is driving brand enablement. Now the brand equity is becoming enabled by technology. The more technology heavy you will become, the more brand equity you will gain, the more valuation you will gain. So the whole story is now evolving across technology. That's why going forward, there won't be any company which will be said non-tech company. That's what I believe. You can see here among the 50 top disrupting company, only 5 companies are non-tech company. Okay, so I'll go to my next slide. Any questions so far?
Yeah, it's very informative.
So I mentioned about in the technology world also there are 2 buckets, and rather I'll say 3 buckets. One is the emerging technologies. I think you have kept this discussion on the topic of emerging technology, but while focusing on emerging technology, we need to discuss the other technology also, and to make the audience believe why investment and why inclusion of emerging technology is important in their business model and product and services offering and go-to-market strategies. So if you see the global tech startup performance in this diagram, you can see the growth phases are there for the artificial intelligence, the blockchain, the robotics, the advanced manufacturing, AI and big data and analytics, edutech. So these are known as fastest growing technology. You can call it emerging technology also, right? Then there are the technology segments which are maturing, but still they are dominating. So if you see the global 50 list of CNBC, which I just demonstrated to you, most of them are the fintech-based companies over there, right? So they are actually riding the past, past investments, because the last 1 to 2 decades, a lot of investments were directed to fintech. So they are reaping the benefit of those past investments. But the future investment, the future is of the emerging technologies. Okay. Now, if you are working in declining technology, then you need to be alerted. You need to recraft your go-to-market strategy. You need to recraft your business model. So because I know a lot of people are working in gaming technology. They are working in ad tech technology, and then edutech. So as per this analysis, these are declining technologies. Okay. So you need to marry if you are a startup playing in the gaming or ad tech, then you need to marry it with emerging tech. You need to redesign your business model. You need to redesign your offerings. You need to redesign your go-to-market strategies, so that you get advantage of emerging technologies. So this is how the technology are getting segmented, right? I think many of you must be working in AI, advanced manufacturing, on robotics and blockchain. But many of you must be also working in digital media, edutech, and ad tech, gaming. So I think this is the time you need to recheck your business model and business plans, right? I'm not saying that it is not going to fetch any revenue. Yeah, it's going to fetch the revenue. I mean, it may do well also, but I'm talking about the 5 year down the line, So the deep tech share has been also increasing. So if you see what's happening, the generic tech growth is decreasing, but deep tech growth is taking off. That means the generic technology offering will not work. You need to envelop it with deep tech technologies. So what are the deep techs? We will come up in next slides, right? Now, if you analyze these three segments, so the three segment I mentioned, right? If you go into this graph, you will see there are three segments. The top is the growth, the green one, the green bubbles, and the mature one, the yellow bubble, and the red one, the declining one, right? So let us analyze these three segments further. So what are these subsectors in growth? I think in that chart you have seen some of these technologies: advanced manufacturing, robotics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, agtech, and new food, and the AI, big data analytics. So how this sector perform? If you see the 5-year data, the early stage deals in 5-year growth. So first segment of technology startups which are into robotics and advanced manufacturing, they have seen their early stage deal growth up to 107.9%, and they have seen the exit growth of 153.8%. So they are essentially 1.8% of the startups, global startups. This is the global statistics. I'll come later on the India statistics. So startup creation growth 6.6%. So this segment is growing at 6.6%. As far as the creation, I mean the number of founding is concerned, the number of startups getting founded in this area. Blockchain, you have seen tremendous gain. 23.9% new startups are created, in this area, year-on-year growth I'm talking about. And then this year, exit growth in blockchain is still hovering around 93.9%. And as far as the share of the startup is concerned, it is at 2.7%. AI and big data combined, if you see the early stage deal growth, early stage deal means funding. The funding growth rate is 64.5%. And the exit, when the investor are exiting, they are getting 130% kind of growth in their investment, right? And the startup creation growth is 9.7. Okay, so if 100 startups are found in a year, then around 9.7 startups are found in AI and big tech data. So, but dynamics are different in mature segment. If you see the mature segments, the cybersecurity, clean tech, life sciences, fintech, the growths are much lower than the emerging technology growth rates. In declining sectors, the growth rates are even negative. Like in EdTech, it's minus 15.8. Of course, the past 1 year was favorable for EdTech due to COVID crisis. I'll come on that aspect a bit later on. Okay, so this will give you glimpses of how emerging technologies are contributing to the entire startup ecosystem. Now, when I talk about the startup ecosystem, let's talk about some of the biggest startups ecosystem. So I think 90% of startups, around 90% of startups are concentrated in top 100 startups ecosystem or top 100 cities. And the 40 global cities are listed here. If you see, the top 7 itself fetches 1.5%, 1.5 trillion of the overall 3 trillion startup economy. So globally, the startup economy right now is 3 trillion. Of half of that being contributed by the 7 top cities. These are Silicon Valley, also California and San Francisco area, the New York area, the London area, Beijing area, Boston area, Tel Aviv, LA. Okay, and of course Shanghai is also there. but Shanghai, Seattle, these are there. These are, are just outside the top 7. Bangalore has got 26th position in this ranking, and Delhi has 36th position, in this ranking. So, as Sunil ji has mentioned, that India is third largest ecosystem in startups. Of course, yes, as a country we may have, but when we drill down to cities, we have only 2 metropolitan areas figuring in these global listings. So I think we need to make many more tech hubs, and I think I'm sure with the efforts of Cradle, Ahmedabad will appear as one of the major tech startup hubs in going forward in next few years. So Asia Pacific is showing a tremendous growth. I'll come to this slide. I think though the ecosystems are there, everything is there, but the failure rate is very high. That's what we have understood from Sunil's point of view also. So the reason for failure is no market need. So, I mean, the poor market study, poor understanding the customer, or something building some fancy product for whose the taker is nowhere. So the mismatch between market and entrepreneurs or the company, startup company, this is the biggest reason for failure. Okay, so these need to be analyzed. You before launching your product in startups, you need a lot of market research. You need to be dynamic in your research also. It's not like that once you have conducted the market research, then you have understood the market. Market remains changing. COVID has changed the entire ecosystem. You need to reevaluate your products and markets very frequently. So I mentioned about COVID. Here are some of the impacts COVID brought as far as the revenue is concerned on various tech stacks. So the blockchain and cryptocurrency are less hit, cybersecurity less hit. Of course, they are hit. They are minus 70% down in revenue. So there are different dimensions to which each of these technology sector responded to the COVID crisis. But on average, about 72% of the startups saw their revenue drop since the beginning of the COVID crisis, with the startup experiencing a decline of 32%. Of course, the startups related with travel and tourism saw the maximum decline in their revenue, but these are the temporary phase. But at the same time, I just mentioned in my opening remarks that your business model to be realigned with these developments, right? These disruptions which are brought by the COVID. Now, I'll go quickly with the various emerging technologies detailing, so that I think we have another 10 minutes, or we have to close at start 3. We have how much time we have in hand?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so this Gartner hype cycle is good to follow, as far as what all emerging technologies details are, detailings are. So if you see in this hype cycle, they have introduced couple of new technology trends in this. You have seen the new solution for the social distancing, because this due to COVID, there is a new demand for some of the solution. So they have introduced here. Okay, so like biodegradable sensors, DNA computing and storage. They are the very futuristic technology. So responsible AI, digital twin in person, generative AI, composite AI, adaptive ML. Okay, so self-supervised learning of the model of machine learning. So these are some of the new components they have added into their high cycle. These are the emerging technologies. But if I particularly focus on AI segment, so what their hype cycle says, these are the components which of the technology which will pick up with the time period. So many of them are picking up in 2 to 5 year timeline, and many of the technology will be picking up in 5 to 10 year timeline. So these technology are augmented intelligence, things as customer, like we Internet of Things, now the things will become as customer, then edge AI is moving in big way, edge computing is moving in big way. Of course, NLP, deep learning, smart robots, and then intelligent application, AI governance. Okay, these are the components which are autonomous vehicle. Okay, the vision, the computing vision. These are the technology we are going to move in going forward. So these are the landscape of top, or you can say one of the successful 100 AI companies. And they have mapped with the verticals. This is the mapping by CB Insights. I can share this slide. You can go through and learn about this company, how they are offering their products and services. If you are going to launch your product services in AI space, then you need to know what other global companies are doing in this space. So this is the good slide to study about the other companies, So if you go inside the AI market, it will be further segmented across these technologies, right? Sub technology, you can say deep learning, deep fake, these are deep tech we are calling. These are now one cluster of the AI. Augmented analytics. So analytics is now moving towards augmented analytics. Okay. So machine learning is also emerging as one subset of AI. AI in cloud. Okay. AI as a PaaS, AI as a SaaS, AI in IaaS, AI at edge. These are the trends which are coming in under AI. So IDC estimates that by 2024, AI vendors likely to earn revenue over $500 billion US. And as per IDC estimate, going forward in 2021 itself, this market, that is the AI market, is going to touch 300 billion mark. So if you see, I was talking about the edge AI. Now, one trend is edge AI is highest growing in the AI space. If you see, the highest growth are coming in edge AI, facial recognition, medical imaging, predictive maintenance, conversational AI, that's bots, cyber security. These are the high growing area of AI in AI subsegments. So in edge also, what will happen, that lot of analytics and lot of intelligence one need to incorporate in edge devices. So like in camera, like video surveillance, lot of analytics and a lot of AI need to be built at the camera itself. In connected car, in IoT, lot of intelligence need to be placed at the sensor level. So these are new trends coming on. You need to make your edge devices intelligent, your sensor intelligent. You can't rely everything, or can't send everything to cloud, the remote cloud. You need to process your data locally, because these are the time critical applications. So how the AI company perform, in terms of equity deals. So this is the heat map. In nutshell, I can say in Q1 of 2021 alone, healthcare AI drew 115 equity deals and recorded high funding of over 2.5 billion. Of course, healthcare is right now in the mainstream because due to COVID disruption. So in 2020 itself, AI companies raised 33 billion despite a slump in total deals. COVID-19 is driving adoption of AI solution and healthcare, cybersecurity, work from home, because workflow management, sales and customer and support. So these are some of the AI companies which gather the very good valuation on Exit. So what big techs are doing in AI space? They are one of the big customers for the acquisitions. And say if you see the Apple, they acquired 29 AI companies in last year time frame, and Google acquired 15, maybe more than that, but this is the prime acquisition we are talking about. The Facebook acquired 12 and Amazon acquired 7. And this is the blockchain technology hype cycle, smart contracts, you know, the cryptocurrencies, you know, the transactions, fintech. The entire fintech is going to evolve across the blockchain. So as per the Gartner prediction, by 2030, many of the present banking firms will get disrupted by the blockchain technology, because blockchain is a peer-to-peer technology, right? So I will become a borrower from you, and you will become a borrower from your friend. That's how the whole system will evolve, the blockchain. So what are the opportunity across blockchain technology? If you see the blockchain technology, the market size of the blockchain, it is you know, again, it has been high growing segments. There are 5 high growing segments identified here, which is the largest growing is which is growing at 83%, is the manufacturing and resources industry. Public sector is growing with 81%, and financial sector is growing with 80%. Infrastructure sector is growing with 79%. So the spending, if you see the total spending in million, you can say right now it is around 10 billion. It's hovering on the blockchain spending. IoT, I think I'll devote less time on IoT because it's kind of widespread, though it is kept in the emerging technology landscape, but it's a widespread, widely used technology. So if you see this pie, the manufacturing is the biggest spender of IoT, followed by transportation, consumer sector, industry, utilities, government, healthcare, and professional services. The IoT market size is expected to be around 1 point in billions. It's around 1567. Sorry, I think it should be million, right? Now, one point I want to bring to your attention, that when you are following AI or blockchain, IoT, you should not follow in isolation, because you have to converge this technology, because the convergence of blockchain and IoT is the most happening area as far as innovation is concerned. As far as our own prediction, CBIA, that is convergence of blockchain, IoT, and AI, is going to create 300 billion potentials, innovation potentials. So this is the block diagram where convergence is working. So, you know, AI is the brain, the blockchain is the logic behind it, and the IoT is the system, like all systems like work. So CBIA convergence is taking us towards Web 3.0. It's another interesting trend. So I think there are a whole lot of Indian startup perspective. I'll quickly walk you through in the next 5 minutes. So in some of the very interesting, if you compare with the global trend and with the Indian trend, you find that globally declining technology are still emerging technology in India. Like fintech is still emerging here in India. You know, so entertainment tech or media tech like is a declining in global perspective, but in India perspective, it is still emerging. So there is a big lack of you know, the synchronization between global trend and Indian trend. But of course, the differences are very rapidly narrowing down, you know. So if you see the Indian 19% of the startups leverage deep tech to build solutions. So AI is the biggest contributor in Indian startups, followed by Internet of Things, big data, blockchain, AR, VR, and 3D printing. And AI has given the growth also. 50% of the growth has come from AI. So these are the startups which have come into the deep tech space as far as India is concerned. So what are the drivers for the emerging tech in India? Of course, India has taken an aggressive target of 5 trillion economy, supported by 1 trillion digital economy, you know, by 2025. So this is kind of driving the transaction of many digital adoption, and then recently the COVID has also added into this digital transformations. So these are the funding trends of Indian startups. If you see the deep techs in India, so they have seen the 51% growth, CAGR growth, 14% growth in their investment. Okay, and 19% of all startups in India are leveraging deep tech. So these are bit data intensive. What I'll say, I will share this presentation. You can go through the data in details and utilize this data as per your need.
Yeah, that's right.
So these are the various stacks of Indian AI startups, so on how they have grown. So the application layer has grown by 37%, interface layer has grown by 27%, platforms have grown by 22%, tools grown by 15%, infrastructure grown by 2%. You know, these are interesting landscape when you are designing your solution and services. You need to factor these trends in your go-to-market, right? So as per this estimate of NASSCOM, deep tech potential is around 450 to 500 billion US dollar in India by 2025, and blockchain potential is up to 5 billion by 2023. So these are the NASSCOM estimates. Now, how AI is going to add in Indian economy, value in Indian economy? Now, as per this estimate, you can see that AI has the potential to add up to 957 billion to Indian economy by 2025. That almost 1 trillion value addition will be done by AI in the next decade. You know, so this is the growth potential of AI. So what are my key takeaways and concluding remarks? Innovation-based emerging technology like AI, deep tech, blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, 5G have power to augment existing enterprises and consumers for higher efficiency, productivity, and brand equity gains through better products and services offering. As I mentioned, you need to inbuild this technology or product and services offering. You need to use this technology for improving customer experience. You need to use this technology for customer problem identification, their need understanding. You need to use this technology for configuring the dynamic products and services to customers. You know, I mean, gone are days when mass customization works. Right now, you need to do customization for each and every consumer you are serving. So use this AR technology, AI technology to understand your each and every consumer and customers to depth and evolve your products and services and solution as per their need. You know, and it's not only about the production solution offering, it's also about the pricing offering. How you bundle your products and services, how you deliver them. So technology need to be deployed in each and every steps what I have mentioned here. Emerging tech startups of India have potential to add higher economic value in Indian economy through innovation, IP creation, higher exports, and enabling global branding. Please remember, even if you are doing a simple thing using technology which has been getting exploited by your competitor, which is not so much technology dependent, then also your valuation will be higher always because you are actually innovating. You know, even you are working in brick and mortar sector, but you are delivering your products and services by using innovative technology. That means you are having extra set of IPs. So these are intellectual assets. When you evaluate your startups, these counts. So technologies-based startups not only going to create differentiation in products and services offering and go-to-market services, but it also differentiated as far as the balance sheet is concerned, as far as the valuation gain is concerned. It adds to the valuation. Okay, so don't only focus about revenue, but focus about also increase valuation in mind. By deploying technology, how you can increase your valuation, how you can increase your IP. How I sell those IP in future market. So India can see over 100 billion worth innovation from emerging tech startups. So 100 billion worth innovation is waiting to be harvested by startups. This gives opportunity to add at least 10 new unicorns in India in emerging tech space. The more market size you have to serve, the more opportunity of unicorn growth. Like in the starting, it has been mentioned by Sunilji that around 38 unicorns have been created by Indian startups. And this year itself, 12 unicorn got added. But I see in emerging tech itself, there is a scope of 10 new unicorns. So can at least 1 to 2 unicorns come from Cradle? And that will be the major impact Cradle will bring to the 5 trillion economic game of our PM. The innovation-driven disruptive emerging tech startups of India have potential to take India towards 5 trillion economic goal. So it should be not a goal of only one PM or one leader. It should be goal of each of us. Because see, US is sitting at 25 trillion. And China is sitting somewhere around the same figures, and we are with 130 billion, 130 crore population. We are sitting at 2.75 trillion economy. That is not fair enough. We have to grow our economic side. We have to grow our household incomes. We have to grow our disposable income if India has to become superpower. With this note, I am finishing my webinar talk. I think I have exceeded some time limit, but hopefully I have covered most of the topics, and hopefully it must be useful to you. I'm open for question answer right now. You can send me a mail on my email ID sumant_parimal@inaudis.com. Thank you for listening with me in patience. Any question I can answer right now, or I can reply offline also.
So Rahul, you can take the questions. Anybody having any questions?
So any questions from audience?
Yeah.
You can just unmute yourself and ask.
Have you got any message as far as question is concerned in the form of message?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, I think what I would like to summarize here that first of all, thank you, Sumanji. Thank you for wonderful presentation. Lot of inputs. Our idea was to sensitize our startup regarding the importance of technology. Importance of technology in the startup ecosystem. What is happening across the globe. And I will say that this is a great insight. They understand the power of emerging technology, how the valuation increases. More than that, I will say that one point you have touched, that is adoption of technology in your offering, that is AI offering, and how this differentiate your product and services offering. That is very, very important and very interesting. And I will touch one more point, that as a startup, right in the beginning, you have told that this is an era where you should be disruptive. And as a startup, all the founders should be disruptive. They should challenge the way things are happening around them. They should challenge the way happening in the industry. They should challenge the way happening in their ecosystem. They should challenge the way things are happening at their customer's place. And if they will challenge that, then only they will add value in the form of technology, and then only they can develop a better product or better offering. So that is very, very important, and that is quite interesting. One more thing you have touched that is very, very interesting, that as far as offering of a startup is concerned, they have to protect their offering by two ways. Number one, they should have IP. We all know that. But more than that, you have touched one point, that is self-destructive. So today, whatever you are offering, you have to challenge yourself only. That we have to change the way we are offering right now, and we will bring a new way. But how that will happen? That will happen only when you are adopting the technology. So that was a great message you have given, and I personally feel all of our startup have got sensitized that this is a time when they will rethink, they will relook into their offering, and they will try to adopt or include the AI technology or some other technology relevant for their startup, and that will be very, very helpful for them as far as their offering is concerned, as far as their product and services offering, and creating that differentiation at marketplace is concerned. So thank you very much, Sumanji. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Thanks again, and thank you all participating startups here. And I wish them all the best for in their endeavor. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suman. Thank you, CU sir, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.